The meta has been completely shaken up in the last month or so, so we are going to be discussing the top 10 tournament winning blades, plus a few honourable mentions. The UK Beyblade Network. What's up, Bladers? This is the UK BBXN, and before we get started on our list, I want to give an honourable shout-out mention to Solar Eclipse, because we got the weight in and it's looking very promising, so do not be surprised if this pops up winning some tournaments from here on out. And if you want to grab yourself a copy, you can pre-order it from jesterino.com and use code UKBBXN to save yourself a tasty 10%. Plus, the autumn sale is now on, which means reduced prices for loads of bays, so definitely head on over there, help support the channel, and pick yourself up some nice cheap bays. But for now, we're going to kick off our list with the GOAT of stamina and defense. I'm talking about One Wizard. Coming in at around 35.5 grams, there's a little bit of a discrepancy based on which Wand Wizard you actually end up picking up, but this thing is a nightmare to try and pocket, and even if you do, paired with a 160 ratchet, it's escaping the pocket half the time. It is a real monster, and it's not hard to see why this blade has dominated decks and winning tournaments since its release. And it might not be as OP as it once was. There are definite counters to this, such as Cobalt Dragoon on 560 Elevate, or the new Shark Scale, which absolutely can pummel this thing if you are not prepared, but it still remains a top pick and definitely has been dominating tournaments even to this day. And coming up next, we're sticking with the classics. It's Soar Phoenix, one of the best attacking blades in the game, weighing in at around 38.5 grams. Again, there's a bit of discrepancy depending on which mold and version you pick up of this. And it is a very good attacker. It's a high point scorer and able to go up against anything that Beyblade X currently has to offer. However, it is a little bit outclassed by the likes of Aerop Pegasus. There's nothing it can really do that Aerop Pegasus doesn't do better. However, it is a lot cheaper and easier to get, and is still a very solid tournament pick that is consistently appearing in tournament winning and top 3 decks. And sticking with the 3-bladed attackers, up next we have the only CX release on this list. It's Pegasus Blast. Now, this thing is coming in at almost 40 grams. It is a monster, dominating a lot of tournaments either on the blast wheel stamina type setup or on a more traditional attack build. It is incredibly hard to pocket, and even though it suffers from having the extra height of being a CX build, ultimately this thing is a weight bully, and it has a very good chance of going up against pretty much anything that your opponent can throw against you. But now we're moving on to talk about Cobalt Dragoon, which weighs in at a very respectable 38 grams and is currently the only viable left spinner we have in Beyblade X. It's very popular on Elevate, which enables it to spin steel, but it's also popped up quite a few times in either tournament winning or top 3 decks on Level. And while left spin is a rarity in Beyblade X, this will remain to be a very solid choice for the foreseeable future. And up next we've got Aerop Pegasus. This weighs in at 38 grams approximately and has been popping up in tournament wins ever since its release. It's basically a better Soar Phoenix with fantastic stamina and attack. The only issue about it is it's a rare prize bay and it's kind of seen as a bit of a pay to win blade. However, that may well change in the future and we may see a release of this down the line, but that remains to be seen. But now we're moving on to be talking about a blade that actually really surprised me how much it popped up in tournament winning or top 3 decks. It's Nightmail. Now, this weighs in at around 36.5 grams, which is not crazy good. However, it's clearly doing work for people. I know that it's got some very good survivability, and when there's a lot of attack coming up against you, that can be quite handy. The main way that people run this in decks is on attack, even though it is a defense blade by, you know, the definitions of Takara Tomy. I personally don't see why you wouldn't use Golem Rock. It feels more preferable. However, this popped up more in the tournament winning decks than Golem Rock did, so I guess it just remains to be seen whether or not that changes or if this blade sticks around. But we might as well stick with blades that surprised me. Next up, it's Scorpio Spear. Now, this one was a little less shocking because it does weigh in around just under 40 grams, so yeah, it is a bit of a weight bully. It's usually run on either a stamina type combo, or alternatively I have seen it used on things like Level or Elevate. However, the height of this thing, it's as tall as a CX bay. So yeah, it really has some issues, and the prongs, when it's in attack mode, can get caught by things with upwards attack blades like Crimson Garuda or Shark Scale or Hover Wyvern, and lead it to be either destabilized or flung into a pocket. So yeah, I'm a little surprised this is still popular. I think that as more heavier blades get released, this will fall out of favour due to the issues that I've mentioned. However, it's popped up in enough decks that the results really don't lie. But now we're moving on to a blade that I am not surprised at all. In fact, it goes the other way. I'm surprised it didn't pop up more, and I'd say that's probably due in part to the fact that it's been quite hard to get a hold of, stock has been limited, and it's quite a new blade as well, plus it's a little more expensive to get your hands on as it's only out in the UX15 Shark Scale deck box. It's Shark Scale, weighing in at around 37 grams, but the weight doesn't matter. This thing is a menace. It is really powerful, and it's also able to get underneath a lot of other bays because the gap between the ratchet and the blade is almost non-existent. And this thing isn't just good at attack either. It's very versatile. Throw it up on wedge and it does wonders. Yeah, this thing is going to be a staple in a lot of tournament winning decks. Mark my words, this is like, yeah, the new kind of like scale in which that wasn't even supposed to be a pun, but yeah, it's the new scale in which blades will be measured in terms of attack and just general performance. But now we're moving on to talk about Silverwolf. This thing has shown up in stamina and defense type builds pretty much consistently since its debut in tournament winning and top 3 placing decks. It comes in at around 36 3/4 grams, and yeah, it's really hard to pocket. If you launch right and you know what you're doing, this thing has so much stamina and defense. However, it is kind of outshone by Wizard Rod, and as more and more kind of heavier weight attack things come in, this is going to probably see less use in tournament play. However, I was quite surprised there were a few tournament winning decks that had this and not Wizard Rod. So, you know, it remains to be seen. This is a very solid blade, but I don't necessarily know if there's any reason why you would pick this over Wizard Rod. Be really interested to know your thoughts down below in the comments. But we've got our final of the top 10 tournament winning blades. However, I would say stick around to the end of the video because we've got some notable entries, including one that was very surprising. But let's get into the final of our list. It's Hover Wyvern. Seeing this made me very happy, as when this blade first released, people kind of slept on it a little bit. I think it being a Hasbro exclusive didn't help. This is no longer the case. This has been popping up in tournament winning and top 3 combos all over the place, and in different kind of builds as well, but we'll get into it. It weighs in at around 35 grams approximately. It is a blade that is very powerful. It's got a lot of recoil, so yeah, it's able to score some high points there. It's quite a versatile blade as well. In addition to kind of the defense builds like putting on Hexa, it seems to be quite popular on attack builds, utilizing rush or low rush, or balance builds on kick. So yeah, it's getting around there. There's even some tournament winning decks or like top 3 that have been using it on stamina builds as well. So yeah, it's got a lot of potential, but it is a high risk, high reward blade that can easily end up in the pocket if you mislaunch or if your opponent manages to kind of like outplay you in that sense. So yeah, just be warned if you are going to pick Hover Wyvern, that it can be a bit volatile, but it's still my baby. I still love it. However, we are now moving on to the other notable blades that popped up in quite a lot of tournament or top 3 decks. First up, we are discussing Golem Rock. This blade, much like Hover Wyvern, shows up in a variety of builds ranging from defense on Hexa to attack on rush or low rush and kick as well. Next up, we've got Tyranno B. It's kind of fallen out of favor as a smash attacker. However, it is still being used and still achieving quite high scoring results. So if you really like it, run it. Then we've got Tide Whale. This seems to be very popular, surprisingly. I've not seen that many people talk about it, but it's very popular on things like level or on classic attack builds using rush and low rush. And of course, Impact Drake always pops its head up from time to time. It's a very powerful blade, and I think it's just the consistency that stops this from appearing way higher up in the list. And then there's Samurai Saber as well, which was quite surprising to me. That's largely being run on level. However, there's not the only Samurai surprise we've got, because people slept on Samurai Caliber, but this thing has been winning left, right, and center. Left Spin Bays recently did a video. He had it running on an attack build. I've seen people running it on Bound Spike and on stamina builds as well as attack. So yeah, if you've slept on this blade, do not sleep on it any longer because this has been winning left, right, and center. But I'd like to know what your thoughts are on these tournament winning bays. Are we going to see anything shake up the meta soon, or are these bays going to kind of stick around? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and I'll see you next time.